Here is chapter 4, part of chapter 4 from Alfred Goldberg's book, Pentagon 9/11, entitled Command and Control. The number of departments responding and the confusion at the scene underscored the need for the exercise of effective command and control, which became the responsibility of Arlington Fire Chief Assistant Chief James Schwartz, who I've interviewed for the Darkened Hour, who arrived at the Pentagon within 10 minutes of impact. Over the radio, he heard the report of a plane that was shot down near 14th Street Bridge, and then that the Pentagon was hit. Making his way down Route 27 in a wave of emergency response vehicles, he gave ECC specific instructions for requesting additional emergency resources and for calling off duty members. As he pulled into South Parking, he saw tremendous smoke and fire, a sea of people trying to assist the injured lying strewn across the lawn, and military forming small groups to re-enter the Pentagon. Schwartz immediately implemented the Incident Command System, the ICS, used to coordinate response efforts at all incidents, but especially important for large-scale events involving multiple agencies and jurisdictions. The ICS was first developed in the 1970s after a series of inadequate responses to disastrous wildfires in western states demonstrated the need for firm command planning and communication procedures that could be used within and across organizations. This makes a lot of sense. Schwartz had met with the FBI agent that was in control of the Oklahoma City bombing. And the reason why the Pentagon was being renovated was exactly for that, because when the Oklahoma City bombing happened, a lot of people were by their windows and near the facade of the building that were destroyed by debris blowing inward. Also, they wanted to reinforce the concrete for blast-resistant windows at the Pentagon. The Pentagon has always been a victim or a hotspot for terrorism. Throughout the mid-1990s, Al-Qaeda talked about the attacks at the Pentagon, which is the reason why, if you look up for Project Moscow, you'll see that in October of 2000, that they were running drills, emergency response drills, of how fast emergency response would take to react to a plane crash at the Pentagon. That's right. The conspiracy is not that the planes hit the buildings. It's that they knew planes were going to be hijacked. The planes were indeed the target for terrorists. And they did nothing, really, to enforce stricter security measures. After the defective response to the Air Florida jet crash into the Potomac River in 1982, some fire and EMS organizations in the Washington region began to use the ICS. Now, also, too, when they were renovating the Pentagon, that area of renovation where the plane hit worked because the bomb-resistant windows survived on the second, third, and fourth floors. You could see the impact when the plane hit. The first floor is gone. The second, third, fourth, yeah, those windows work. Some of the walls as well. March 2001, the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, a regional agency addressing problems of mutual concern to its 19 members, advised area fire and EMS departments to implement the standardized ICS. By September 11th, mutual aid partners in Northern Virginia had, for the most part, done so, but other services in the metropolitan region had not yet fully complied. You know, it was a great idea. It's a really good idea. A major event, you have a lot of first responders coming, local, federal governments. Instead of having all this confusion reacting to one area, everybody goes to the Incident Command Center and gets reports from the person running it. And in this case, it's James Schwartz and also Ed Plower. These are the fire chiefs and assistant fire chiefs that were in command of the Pentagon incident. And we talked about this in the episode with James Schwartz at the Darkened Hour. And we talked about the Incident Command Center, how it was reconstructed. And what I'll do is I'll link it in the description. I'm the only person to ever interview him. He was a wealth of knowledge. I don't know why people, he talked about the 9/11 truth movement, the no-planers that actually harassed him for over 10 years, him and his wife. Chief Schwartz and other commanding officers later attributed the overall success of the emergency response at the Pentagon to the ICS. The Arlington County Fire Department took initial command of the scene, even though the Pentagon was federal property. Under the ICS, the agency responsible for the most crucial functions in any given stage was to assume authority. While the Pentagon attack created both a fire scene and a crime scene, fire suppression and rescue clearly demanded priority. You can't investigate a crime scene if it's on fire. It's obvious. As the highest ranking ACFD officer on the scene, Schwartz relieved Cornwell as incident commander, a position ICS protocols vested with top authority in managing the incident. While Schwartz was entitled to operate under the single command structure, giving him sole responsibility for decision-making, he exercised tact and diplomacy in dealing with the immeasurable participating federal, state, local, and private organizations, particularly Federal Bureau of Investigation, which was designated the lead agency for investigating domestic terrorist events. The FBI investigates air piracy. That's exactly why they took over investigating what happened here instead of having the National Transportation Safety Board, who investigates malfunctions on airlines. Everybody knew, except planers, everybody knew these planes were hijacked. 10 days until the fire was officially declared extinguished, the ACFD retained control, relinquishing it on September 21st to the FBI. Schwartz set up the incident command post in South Parking, operating initially out of the command buggy, a Chevrolet Suburban, later in the day switching to the Arlington County Police Department command vehicle, and still later to a Fairfax County vehicle. He assigned the tactical missions that needed the most urgent attention. Since no one yet had a good sense of the danger inside the building, he assigned several fire companies under Chief Cornwall to rapidly assess the interior. And you'll see the book goes on to the initial command structure and upload. So you have the incident commander, the joint operations center, the operations section, the plant section, logistical section, fire suppression branch, EMS branch, rescue branch, river division, A&E division. It's a lot of, structure here. Has to be because you have thousands of people on site. Plus you have volunteers that were coming in the days afterwards. Volunteers from other fire departments from out of state, from EMS from out of state. They were descending on the crash site. The huge scale of the conflagration compelled Schwartz early on to establish the tiered working groups prescribed by the ICS for the most urgent tasks at hand. He appointed Gibbs to command the River Division, which fought the fire and performed search and rescue missions at the heliport hot zone. Operating from the center court, Battalion Chief Smith commanded the A&E Division, which took its name from A&E Drive. The EMS Division, initially called the South Parking Division, was commanded first by Assistant Chief John White and then by Battalion Chief James Bonzano. As the morning progressed, Schwartz created the upper supervisory levels. He assigned Battalion Chief Randy Gray, commander of the Fire Suppression Branch, overseeing firefighting in the A&E and River Divisions. The EMS branch handled medical activities, by that time centered mostly in South Parking. Around noon, he created the operations section to run the fire suppression and EMS branches, and around 1 p.m., he established the logistics section. This organization allowed the commanders to focus on their own sectors and functions, and at the same time, broadened Schwartz's span of control. He delegated authority at first to his own ACFD officers, later turning to other departments to help sustain the high level of effort. When radio communications failed, runners carried information between sectors and the command post. In general, the division commanders communicated face-to-face with subordinate officers who in turn led the firefighting companies on tactical missions. Division commanders had a better grasp of the situation on the ground than the command post, and they had discretion to use what tactics they thought necessary. Schwartz really was excellent here because he actually, there's a lot of egos in when it comes to people in the public and private sectors of the emergency divisions, EMS, fire department, police. You know well what I'm talking about. And what people like to do is command their own sectors or their own groups. What Schwartz did was magnificent. He actually didn't mind whether there were small groups, but he delegated them in certain areas of the building. One area would be like to fight fire in the inside of the building, on top of the building, near the roofs. You had search and rescue going on as soon as the fires were extinguished in parts inside the building. Then you had groups that were search and rescue missions outside the building that were happening in the parking lot, inside A&E Drive. People that were to remove debris, label debris as either debris from the building or debris from the plane. They had flags, different color flags for human remains and plane debris. And then the FBI would know where to go, or the cadavers know where to go to pick up human remains that would be put in specialized bags, evidence bags for plane debris. There's a lot of structure. Because they were so intensely engaged, the first commanders had little chance to interact with Schwartz. In the opinion of some officers, it was exactly this flexibility that allowed for success. Indeed, firefighters at all levels often had to exercise their own judgment, especially in the early going. Schwartz was setting up the incident command post when FBI Special Agent Christopher Combs arrived about 9:50 a.m. Combs served on the FBI's National Capital Response Squad, an anti-terrorism rapid response unit. Until additional FBI personnel arrived not long after, Combs served as on-scene FBI commander and stayed with Schwartz at the command post. The two knew each other and had a comfortable working relationship. As the regular FBI liaison to the fire services, Combs routinely cross-trained with regional departments. Earlier that morning, he had been at the D.C. Fire Academy training firefighters in counterterrorism tactics. It's a sound idea. The outpouring of fire departments to the scene, some of them self-dispatched, complicated Schwartz's effort to establish effective command and control. Those closest to the scene, Arlington, Fort Myer, Reagan, National, and Washington, D.C., raced in first and bore the brunt of the battle. Manpower was short at first, but the number of units arriving from other departments throughout the day became overwhelming. Many had to remain on standby, some at considerable distance from the Pentagon and never saw any action. Other units ignored staging protocols, drove to the building, and jumped into action on their own, further aggravating the control problem and causing hard feelings among those who awaited instructions. Different types of units came from Alexandria, Falls Church, Fairfax City, Fort Belvoir, Dulles Airport, and Fairfax, Prince William and Loudoun counties in Virginia, and from Montgomery, Prince George's, and Frederick counties in Maryland. Dealing with hundreds of trucks and other vehicles and thousands of firefighters, medical people, and other responders sorely taxed the capacity of the command post. Chief Ed Plower of the Arlington County Fire Department gave strong support to Schwartz. After hearing of the attack, he raced to the scene, lights flashing and sirens wailing, arriving around 10 a.m. As the county's senior firefighter, Plower could have assumed the role of incident commander, but he recognized that Schwartz, already on the scene for some time, had a better grasp of the situation. Instead, 30-year veteran of both the Fairfax and Arlington County Fire Departments took control of administrative and support matters. Throughout the event, he monitored the overall functioning of the response effort, serving in a senior advisor responsibility party capacity. When he arrived, Plower expressed concern that the command structure still lacked the information to calculate medical and firefighting needs. To better judge the scale of the disaster, he commanded a nearby U.S. Park Police helicopter to fly him over the Pentagon rings. And that's where you'll see the pictures over the Pentagon were coming from him. As near to the flames as possible. From that area vantage, he saw that the fire had not progressed inward beyond the sea ring. When the pilot warned that the helicopter's air intakes would suck smoke into the engines if they got any closer, Plower decided he had seen enough. They returned to the ground just as Schwartz ordered a site evacuation because of a report of an inbound plane. And so that's the end of this part of the chapter. So we'll continue doing this series of Alfred Goldberg's magnificent 9/11 Pentagon 9/11 book, See you in the next video. Take care, everybody.